I'm Michael Weiss. I'm the former CTO at Universal Pictures. I was lucky enough to spend a decade at the intersection of art and science and technology and entertainment in the studio. So I brought together really an illustrious group of people to give what's hopefully a bit of a glimpse into the future, where we think AI is headed, how it's going to impact the industry, and really importantly, maintain the creative integrity of the world, I hope. But with that, I'll kind of just briefly will introduce ourselves. Maybe Danny?
Hi, I'm Danny Cohen. I'm the president of Access Entertainment. I wear two hats. I'm an investor in movies, TV, live theatre, digital content, and immersive entertainment. And I'm also a creative executive, so I work creatively on movies and theatre productions and so on.
I guess that's me. Eric Shamlin. Wear a few hats, I guess. My night job, which seems to be taking up a lot of my time because we're in Emmy season, is I'm on the board of governors for the Emmys, where I also chair their AI task force. And so in certain rooms in Hollywood, I am both the devil and the angel in terms of like where these things are going and how AI is going to impact creative in Hollywood writ large. But then by day, I run an AI native content studio, largely focused on animation and sort of like animation pipelines and rendering. And then I've been sort of in the AI space for a while. I've launched a couple products over the years. So this is kind of full time for me now.
Hi, I'm Rachel. Good to be here. I work as a strategist and designer with large brands and studios as they're trying to figure out how to use emerging tech, but from an experiential and strategic standpoint. And also I'm a professor at USC.
Awesome. I'm Jason Anderson. I'm the founder of Choir. We do strategic advisory around core business models of media convergence with tech. And then we also do the financing side of it, bringing capital to those ideas.
I'm Ali, founder and CEO of Inkit. We have created this end-to-end storytelling pipeline, everything from book to movie. We just surpassed $100 million in annualized revenue by helping one new author every 3 weeks to create a multi-million-dollar novel. Thank you. And we use AI to listen to our readers and understand what they want, and to then help authors create all these hits.
Amazing. What an amazing group we're lucky enough to have today. Just to help level set with some context today, you know, the question is AI a hero or a villain? Being from a storytelling community, that's sort of the question of the moment. And just to level set about the movie industry, you know, which is where I hail from. If we think about what a movie is, you know, in my view, it's the epitome of art form, like as good as art can be. It's an alchemy of story, of acting, of costume design, of hair design, of sets, of cinematography, of color sciences, of distribution into movie theaters that creates art that's fundamentally so intriguing, so amazing, so emotionally moving that we all can remember a movie that we'll remember forever, you know, over the course of a two-hour experience. And it's like magic seeing this stuff come together. So as we think about, you know, what happens to the art form, you know, how does AI sort of wash over, you know, and what does it mean? It's really against a backdrop of a very challenged industry. I mean, people watching fewer movies, a lot more short form video. A lot of the economics industry have changed. The people don't subscribe to as much cable television. All those ad dollars that kind of flew into studios is really shrinking too. So it's a challenged industry in a lot of ways, but nonetheless a vibrant one. We're still telling some amazing stories. But against that backdrop of artistic storytelling, but a financially challenged industry, what does AI really mean? What can it mean? And we believe, in you know, my world, that we're at a moment in time where AI could be a hero or could be a villain. A more villainous flavor is AI is seen as purely a cost savings mechanism. How can we automate all the visual effects? We don't need actors anymore. We can type in a paragraph and out comes a movie. All these things that creativity is dead and AI will sort of change the world. I don't think we fundamentally believe that. One, we don't think it's the right thing for society. And importantly, humans are told by humans to other humans. It's sort of intrinsic trait. So we're really seeing AI as being helpful is really a creative accelerant, whether it's helping a visual effects artist create more amazing visual effects, a 3D artist creating more amazing 3D artwork, or if anyone has heard what's happened at the Sphere in Las Vegas with Wizard of Oz, these astonishing new experiences based on sort of existing storytellers. And we're really excited what AI can do in that context. And I'm personally really excited about it. We'll hear from some people on the panel of what AI can do in terms of emerging storytelling. You know, things like agentic AI and real-time AI video generation really could launch and help enable some fascinating new experiences. You know, imagine, for example, experiencing Shakespeare's Macbeth as any of the characters. He can be the protagonist or not, and a story arc told in whole new ways. So the next 19 minutes and 17 seconds, we'll hear from really some industry experts on where things are headed and really where reality could be. So I'll turn it over to Eric to give some perspective on what's real and what's not.
Great. I've got 3 videos. I won't play the whole thing or each of them. I'll play just little excerpts and kind of explain. I chose these 3 videos as trying to kind of give you sort of evolutionary milestones on what generative AI is kind of capable of, at least state of the art in terms of visual generative AI. The first is a project I was blessed to produce about a year ago. It was the first major brand to adopt AI, Coca-Cola. This went global back in December of last year. And sparked a worldwide debate. My inbox was full of hate, but it was a cultural milestone. And I'll just play a little bit. This one I can probably play the whole thing. It's short. Actually, I'll pause it real quick. Just watch it online. It's great. It's a great video. And there's actually a whole there's a whole behind the scenes making of. It's actually quite a fun story. But what I like to flag is if you actually watch close, it's got all kinds of warts. The wheels don't spin on the trucks. Some of them actually spin backwards. There's consistency issues all over it. There's a lot of uncanniness for those of you that are aware of what uncanny valley is. Like the people look sort of like hyper real. So like Coke is one of the few brands that could lean into that because they do a lot of hyper real. So they were like, it's a bonus for them. But not many other brands could lean into that sort of hyper real uncanny valley thing. What I do like to point out is the brief or the request from Coke was, can you use AI to create an ad, a global campaign for them? And obviously we're like, yes, we can figure this out. But what we learned is you very much still need humans. Like all the faces in it are humans. This is at a point where AI faces were really, really bad. And so we actually went out and cast actors and paid them their day rates. And so there's a full cast that we employed. We ended up basically doing face swaps on the cast, on the AI models, just to make sure. But every face in it is a real person out there in the world somewhere. And then just something that I learned was the uncanny valley isn't just for visuals. There's also an audio uncanny valley, or there's a inauthenticness that you can run into. And so we had a cut where we had the AI video and AI audio, and there was just something wrong. It's just like in your gut, you're like, it's just too fake. It's too much. So we ended up hiring an orchestra and doing the whole a cappella band, and doing completely organic audio. So it was just to show kind of where it was, state of the art then. I'm going to play a quick This is 6 months later, or 5 months later. It's April, I think. This is a music video I got to produce for Wu-Tang Clan. And I'll play just a little bit of it.
The Mandingo style takes a strong back and total breath control. If properly mastered, one's skin becomes impervious to swords, spears, and fire, even bullets. Ultimately, one becomes invincible.
That one, again, I'll let you go watch it there. That one, there's no organic element to it at all. It's completely AI. We were able to achieve consistency that you didn't have previously, and then it became kind of the showcase piece for Google VO at the time, just in terms of the overall quality. And then I'm going to
We should probably just keep rolling.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We'll make all the stuff available, but in interest of time, Rachel, you've been really involved for a long time in kind of the future of storytelling. Where do you think AI can help there?
Yeah, so to take a step back, I think this is speaking a lot to like the future of storytelling with AI is not you push a button and make a movie, which is I think what the narrative was for a little while. I think it's a bit broader than that as we think about the role that AI plays versus the role that humans humans play. So my background comes from, in some ways, a very data-focused side, from coming with computational neuroscience and spatial economics. But I think it comes back to this question of, right, like, what is replacement? What is the role of humans? Is there a role for humans? What does intelligence look like? I think if we think about what intelligence means for humans, our intelligence comes from being embodied in the world and being able to process this like multisensory perception of the world through which we form our picture of what the world is. If we think about the information that feeds into AI, it's pretty limited. It's text, it's audio, it's video, it's 3D, which when we think in contrast to human senses, we have, neuroscientists would say we have 30 plus human senses. Most of those senses are not computable. They're not things that can be measured in any way. We can't record pain. When you go to a doctor asks you what is your pain on a scale of 1 to 10 because there's no way to actually measure that. So much of human sensation that forms how we think of intelligence isn't something that's measurable. And so when we think about AI that has this kind of specific input, it's a different form of intelligence. I think that's important to kind of keep in mind as we think about where everything is evolving. Obviously, every time there's a new technology, there's some kind of fear around what does it mean. This is Plato and the concern around writing as a form of technology, reshaping the brain and taking away from human intelligence in that way. But the beautiful part about it is, yes, there's things that change when we introduce new technologies. When photography came, it changed painting, but painting evolved in a way to be less representational, and we created a new form. So the thing to keep in mind now, I think, from a storytelling standpoint, is this question of, like, what are the new formats of storytelling that we're going to start to see? I think one piece of this is that we moved from linear experiences, which is film and TV. You're telling a story from point A to point B to C, to nonlinear experiences with games and things that are much more interactive in some way. What AI is enabling is like a third category of experiences, which are more emergent, that are able to take data about the individual and who they are and what they want, that are able to see the context of the environment and the context of the experience, and bring those pieces together to be really responsive and to change and to adapt so that everyone has personalized experiences. So all of these things are new categories of experiences that are evolving, where stories aren't just about something you view, they're about contextualizing information. So we live in this era of like contextualized experience that is partly story related, but that is also bleeding into our lives of things that are very functional of, oh, a typical experience of getting from point A to point B that's very like map related. Now it can be a story experience. Now it can be an experience for play. But where that leads us to is this question of formats that need to evolve. Format meeting some kind of defined medium of presentation, some kind of shared consumer expectation of format and what they're paying for is what is going to shape these replicable distribution and monetization pipelines for new formats. And I think that's what Jason's going to speak to.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Awesome. Push the little button right here.
Yep.
The big
Middle one. There you go.
All right. So my section is the fun part. It's about fandom, community, engagement, everything that comes after an asset. It could be a film, TV, video game, whatever, moves into the market and humans take over. I'm going to frame it for us so that the things I talk about will make contextual sense. If we were to dial back the clock 35 to 40 years ago, distribution in art was controlled by a handful of studios that through marketing and how you could watch, consume, much more rigid, had much more power and control. So the end market, the audience, was really a recipient of content and not a participant in content. This shift with social media, now that fandom communities, individual influencers matter more in many ways than primary marketing, we have an explosion in what is the mutation of content. Primary pieces of assets from K-pop Demon Hunters to Wicked to Harry Potter are now being recut, remixed, reproduced, redistributed, and are forming the core of really cultural marketing and the communities that form around this IP. This is completely outside of the domain and control of the studios and sits with the people, and is now a big, big part of it. Before it was canon, the franchise, Marvel, predictability, will this work in the market and make money? Content libraries, we own the assets, we own the characters, we own the stories, and then ultimately marketing funnels. Let's produce an asset that we can drive through the funnels, get it to the audiences, and hopefully it's a big blockbuster. Nowadays, it's about fan-driven constellations, personalizations, ecosystems around the IP, from physical experiences that could be put on by the fans themselves and interactions to creating secondary and tertiary content, et cetera. And then obviously that ecosystem leads to network communities of fans that are driving it. The biggest push for Barbie were the fans, not the marketing from the studios. And then here, this is the new reality. Original content is just the starting point for the studios and for the way that we interact with content. And if you want to have something that becomes enormous, K-pop Demon Hunters is an easy example. You have to do way more than just build something exceptional and then deliver it to audiences. You need to turn on whole communities of performers and players that grab those assets and start to repurpose them, reproduce them, and then redistribute them over social platforms. And then that gets you to audience of the actual performer. These are not the actors in the movies. John Wick has a whole hour and a half you can watch the movie with an influencer talking about what's going on because maybe you don't have a friend to watch it with, or maybe that's your form of interaction with other humans. This is becoming more important to the media and marketing side of the equation because fandom and community is where longevity and franchise loyalty start to be built, particularly if you talk about youth audiences. They really don't care what marketers care about. They don't really care about what your ads look like on billboards or buses or the subway or on TV. They care about what their friends are saying, what influencers are posting, and how the content that is the primary assets are being translated to wider audiences. And so here, example from Wicked, a small social moment took over and drove millions of people towards that IP. Here with Harry Potter, the use of AI tools for story creation created a whole new community overnight with thousands and thousands of people coming in and telling stories about the Harry Potter canon, but in their own ways to their own communities of people that don't happen to be the studios or producers.
So sorry, just interest of time, I want to make sure we get some time from Ali and Danny here.
This is my last point.
Okay.
So now as we look at it, content isn't an endpoint anymore, it's a loop with consumers and with fans. All right.
Thank you so much. Okay, love to hear.
Connect to this point, Mike, you brought up, is AI the hero or the villain?
Yeah.
And I had like an interesting last couple of months for personal reasons. I had to move back to Germany for about a year, and now I'm back in San Francisco. So I was living in San Francisco, Germany, back in San Francisco. And coming back for me, it was like really scary to go into San Francisco and then see a billboard that says, we are creating this AI that is going to replace your recruiters. And then you would drive by to another street, and it's like, we have this AI that's going to replace your sales team, and this AI who's replacing that, and so on. And I find that very scary, and I think it's we here in this room, we who are building the future, who are shaping the future, it's in our power to set the right direction, and it's in our power to create AI that is in service of storytellers or replaces storytellers. And going through this experience, I don't want to be like, in my deathbed, at some point, look back and say like, hey, we created AI that replaced writers or replaced storytellers. That would be a horrible thing to look back to. And I know that there are so many tools, creators, and companies and so on out there who want to create that AI that replaces humans. But I really want us to campaign for creating more companies and more mindsets for a better future where humans are in power and we are using AI as a service to us and as a tool. And I think it's very important that we really focus on that and not on this short-term making a buck by creating an AI that replaces certain things that we do. Just something I wanted to just riff off on because I felt that was really resonating with me, Mike.
Me too, 100%. Love to hear, Danny, your perspective is a filmmaker, Jason, in the room, what your perspective is on that.
I thought I'd just very quickly paint a picture. So I was involved with a movie executive producer of a movie last year that won an Oscar called Conclave. And it's set in the Vatican. And no great credit for me, but I was part of the team. So I just want to pitch something for you. So Ray Fiennes is playing an archbishop, a cardinal, excuse me, and he's trapped between his responsibilities and the power struggles within the Vatican about who's going to be the next pope. And what Rafe does in that film is express things on his face without speaking, which are immensely powerful and deeply human. And I think many of the great actors have that ability to express things with their face without speaking. And there's something deeply human about that. And there's also something deeply human about the alchemy that goes on a set. And as you rightly said, it's performers, it's the relationship between a director and a performer. It's the lighting, it's the choreography, it's the director of photography. All of these things, when they work, and they don't always work, and I can give you plenty of my experience where it hasn't worked, there's a beauty and a magic and an alchemy which I'm not at all yet convinced that the AI is going to be able to reproduce. And it also has a soulfulness to it, which again, I think humans want to connect with humans and human storytelling. And I'm not sure that AI is going to reproduce that soulfulness either. So I think AI is going to have a really, really important place to play, and you can see by some of the models people are using for video generation, it really will. My instinct is it's going to have a bigger impact in short-form storytelling initially, because I think users' and customers' expectation of what you see in short form doesn't have those such high barriers of quality that you might see in longer-form filmmaking or high-end television series. And I think it will have a massive, massive impact in the creator economy, where I also invest. But I do think we should keep very, very important to keep valuing that human soulfulness and the human creativity, and B, also recognize that what might happen is going to lead to a lot of people losing their jobs. And it's something that it's easy to get excited about AI and not think about the consequences of that in the creative industries. So really making sure we don't lose sight of what that means for people is really, really important. And I'll just finish one thing that you mentioned Harry Potter, and I've worked with J.K. Rowling, and she's one of the most remarkable creatives I've ever come across. Her ability to build worlds and build stories and build characters. There are so many aspects to those characters, those stories that she's never put on paper that she has in her head. And again, I'm not sure that AI, despite its all abilities to regurgitate stories, will ever come up with a J.K. Rowling or will ever deliver a Shakespeare scene like in Macbeth. So I'm actually a big believer in AI, and I can see its place, but I'd really advocate for holding on to the human nature of creativity and why it's served humans so well for thousands of years.
Do you have anything to add?
Fully agree with what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
I think AI should be in service of the storytellers. With the Inkit, we've had very recent things like that has happened. That is about a month ago, we launched our first werewolf movie, which we would have otherwise not been able to do, right? We launched a werewolf movie where the humans are shaping into werewolves. That would have been a very expensive VFX production, and we were able to do that for a regular budget that we usually would have had. Otherwise, this movie would have never happened. And with AI, we are able to shift these humans into werewolf form and make that happen. Or a week ago, I was talking to one of our authors who is now making almost $500,000 in sales, and she doesn't speak English at all, but her entire community is in the English is an English audience. She writes in German. And because of the great AI translations, she's now able to have a much larger audience, and this is now possible, right? And these are the stories and the things, the human stories I want to hear more of. Yeah. Is how AI is making things possible that otherwise would have not been possible. And that's the direction I would love the AI industry and media and entertainment to go.
I love Eric, to hear your thoughts and that sort of being in a firing line, as it were, as in both the academy and as a creator on this push and pull and interplay between human creativity and the reality of what AI tools can do, including what you just showed us. Yeah?
I think you kind of nailed it in your opening statement. The most interesting thing to a human is another human. We seek out human craft, human storytellers. If something's been automatically generated, we kind of know it, and we kind of tune it out. And it's sort of in our DNA. And I think we've got kind of this arms race between our ability to recreate reality through AI, but our willingness to accept it. It's kind of this, there's an arms race. And I always like to go back to the T-Rex of the original Jurassic Park. When that was crashing through the forest, that was a photoreal T-Rex. Yeah. Go watch the film now, it's crap. Sorry, from a CG perspective, it's deeply challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging. I'm a big believer in practical effects, for that reason.
But nothing. The point is, nothing changed in the film. It was our discernment change. It was our ability to recognize and read reality. And I think that I think is a semi-permanent fixture in that we're in an arms race with our ability to recreate reality. And so we're going to continue to seek out truth, reality, human craft. And I think the more you actually play with these tools, you know they're not going to replace those things. Yeah. They're kind of dumb. As geniuses all the AI scientists are, it's really bad at taste and story and timing. There's no sense of the zeitgeist, what's a meaningful story today versus tomorrow. All those things lead me to think that human executive function, and I mean that in like the strategic thought, the creative thought, the dynamic thought, those things are, I think, actually going to become more important because we're about to see a deluge of AI slop. And what's going to make something stand out from another piece of something is the human craft. We're going to seek out human craft, the human touch, human perspective, because that's the only thing that has a sense of the zeitgeist, the sense of the moment.
Amazing. We're going to take a couple questions from the audience, or?
Yeah, I do want to say, one of the things I fear about most of AI is going to replace me as a potential character, as a terrorist or an Uber driver or a restaurant worker or a mad genius. So that's my biggest fear. But anyway, I'm going to ask the audience 2 questions, less than 30 seconds. Okay.
So I'm in the financial services industry, and for years, we've seen our industry displaced through fee compression, fintech, robo-advisors, and so forth. We don't really have a voice like media, entertainment, even coders to talk about the humanity of displacing our industry. So what are your thoughts on the disparity between those industries that do have a public voice and those that don't when it comes to people being like coal miners back during 2016 being displaced and told they should learn how to code, and now coders are being told they should learn how to mine coal?
Yeah, I'll jump ball. I'll
Take that one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is very much a conversation I have all the time, and I think we collectively, as the entertainment industry or media industry, I think we are kind of a canary in a coal mine for how society adopts these technologies. Are we going to be AI first or human first? And because we're so visible as an enterprise, I think we need to get it right.
Yeah, there's something I was.
Because then the coal miners will figure it out, or like a ripple effect, right? But because we're so visible, we need to stand the line and figure this out.
I mean, our industry went on strike for 6 months and really shut down over this issue. And there's something disconcerting for an actor to see their likeness performing by machine. And you're right, it does tug at heartstrings. It tugs at the public debate. I think if anything is helpful is the entertainment industry, because we are maybe, I don't know if we're the first canary in a coal mine, but certainly one that's visible and talked about and has a voice. So hopefully it's helpful to bring that debate.
I think, speaking quickly to that hero versus villain framing, it's not that there's one point of change or one point of pressure that you can use to influence, right? I think one level of AI is the foundational models and the values that are embedded in them. But another layer is the tools themselves, and how are those foundational models used in service of people. I think that's another layer of change. And then there's a layer of systems around these things, about how are people actually putting these things into application. So there are multiple kind of layers that determine whether or not I think AI turns out to be the hero or the villain in our story.
I can speak, I spent 10 years in your industry as an investment banker, did my dues. The reality is the same imperatives in those industries are grinding through entertainment, same way. If you look out externally, to be philosophical about it, we all know in this room where this is going to go. The debate is fun and cute, but the reality is you can look out to the wider world and where are we valuing things? Where are we putting our emphasis into people, economics, wealth? At the end of the day, as a world, we've kind of rotated towards more of a solipsistic, individualist kind of attitude. The industries reflect that. Unless we as a group, including the people that consume this content, push back and say we want authenticity, we want things. The reality is most consumers don't care about quality. There's massive studies about that for the media space. The studios are going to hold themselves together economically as long as they can, but the fracturing away of content creation towards independent creators will reflect the wider world and drives of monetization, wealth creation, and art will become primary or secondary depending on the individual, and then there will be a dialectic of grind as we will watch humanity and the industries follow a parallel path together. If I was betting, I would bet that we're headed into the same place we see in financial services, in the applications and eliminations of cost. And in media, we're going to try to preserve the creativity the same way as my hedge fund investors are preserving creativity in hedge funds while grinding out as much of the cost as possible with AI and algorithms. Rentech, right? 300 people, $80 billion, and declining number of people, increasing number of assets. That's what you'll see in the entertainment industry as well, unless consumers push back. But look at social media, and they're not really.
On that happy note, I think we might have a panel.
Yeah, we have one last question, but I
Okay.
would say just limit it to about a minute in response. It's going to be really quick.
My question is on creativity. I mean, look at all the models. It's been based on what it's been trained on. Like all the models cannot get hand right. The facial expression surrenders. And if you look at generation, hand is made bad. So the question is, how can it bolster creativity, the AI, the current way it
Yeah,
is?
I think we have to believe in humans fundamentally and not take AI as something exciting, but not the answer to all our problems. And unless we do that, we're going to dislocate what's made storytelling and creativity great, certainly in the last 2 centuries. Of course it evolves, of course it changes. You know, novels were invented in the 18th century. It's not like for the last 3,000 years people are reading novels. Of course there'll be innovation in form. But I really do believe at heart that we're humans and that storytelling is fundamental to us as humans. And we must hold on to that, not at the expense of AI.
Yeah. You have to make a place for it.
Yeah.
That's the answer. You have
Think
to.
of it as an assistant or like. There's no point, no defense for writer's block anymore. Just
That's true.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for
thank
moderating
you.
this panel.
Thanks for having us.